Okay, so as we can see, we're working on week 13, Tuesday now. I get out my help pages, and I notice that the first thing we look for is the subject. Who or what does the verb? So it's going to be a noun or pronoun. It's not in a prepositional phrase, and it says there and here are never the subject of a sentence. So I find my verbs. I already labeled cheered. So who cheered him with the hopes? Okay. The opening is what cheered him with the hopes, right? So that is the simple subject. Then there's another verb, was. What was at hand? The bridge. That's the other simple subject. So that's subject number 2. This is subject number 1. Okay. So now we've got the simple ones labeled. Let's go on to the simple predicate. We need to know whether it's transitive or intransitive, but first let's just find it. We know it's going to be this. The opening cheered. That's a verb. Was is a verb. This takes a direct object, so it was done to something. It cheered what? Him. So that is a verb transitive. Was, can you was something? No. That is a verb intransitive. Okay? So we're done with our simple predicate and verb. Now we look for prepositional phrases. Like always, it begins with the preposition, ends with the noun or the pronoun, which is the OP, which we have to find. To find, it can be an adjective prep phrase or an adverb prep phrase, and it goes until it's OP. So we had a P, in. In what? Trees. That's my OP. That's my prepositional phrase. What does this describe? What kind of which opening was it? The one in the trees. So that is an adjective prep phrase because it answers an adjective question of which one. Okay. I had another preposition, with. With what? The hopes. That's my OP. With the hopes. What would that answer? How it cheered him? Yeah, it cheered him up with hoping, right? So that's I'm going to write it up here because mine is split. If you write it down below, that's fine. That's an adverb prep phrase. Okay. Do I have any other prepositions? At. At what? Hand. That's my OP. This describes the verb clearly. It's where it was. So that is an adverb prep phrase. Okay. So I've got all of the last word in the prepositional phrase has to be the OP. If it's not, you did something wrong. So I've got all of that done. Now I go on to my complements. I'm looking for a direct object. Follows an action verb. So it's got to be in the first half of the sentence. To find it, you say subject verb what? Opening cheered what? Him. That's my direct object. And this one cannot have a direct object because it's not an action verb, it's a linking verb. Indirect object, it is between the verb and the direct object. There's no words here, so I cannot have one. Predicate nominative follows a linking verb, so I could have one, and it renames a subject. You do the same thing to find it. So the bridge was what? There is no answer, other than at hand, which is a prepositional phrase, so it can't be it. So we don't have a predicate nominative. We also don't have a predicate adjective. A positive, a noun where another one is renamed, didn't have that. So you can't have in a positive phrase. A noun of direct address, is anyone being spoken to in the sentence? No. A gerund phrase is possible because we had a gerund, but it's an 8th grade thing, and I'm just going to say we don't have one. I'll give that one to you. So now we have to find the complete subject. The simple subject plus all its modifiers, all the words that describe it. So the opening was a simple subject. I know it's an opening, and it's an opening in the trees. And here's the tricky part. No, it's not the tricky part yet. So cheered is the verb. When did it cheer him? Now. And it cheered him, so that goes with the verb. With the hopes, that's how it cheered him. And here's the tricky part. This is a separate sentence, isn't it? That the church bridge was at hand. So I have to look at that makes it a dependent clause. That the church bridge was at hand doesn't make sense by itself. It is not a complete thought. Sorry, that light is bugging me. So this, since it's dependent, is going to describe either the subject or the verb up here. So that the church bridge was at hand. Does that tell us about the opening, or does that tell us about it cheering him? It's how it cheered him, kind of, right? So this entire clause would be underlined twice because it's a dependent clause, it's adverbial, and it describes the verb. Okay? So now my underlining is done. I've done both the complete predicate. And look, I'm on to Wednesday. So we are done with Thursday.